Welcome, welcome. Let's give it a few minutes, let people in, see if we got these technical difficulties taken care of. Welcome. We have a chat available as well that you can communicate in. And if you want to participate with sharing your experience for the word of the week, I'm here for it. All right. Place in the chat, put in the chat who you are and where you come, where you're tuning in at. Where you tuning in from. Uh, for those who don't know, my name is Samuel L. Crumby Jr., aka Samion, known by some as Samion, and I am the one who has been leading this word of the week. I have many titles. However, I am all things to whoever I need to be that for. As the creator says, or the master teacher, I am that I am. We're going to do the word of the week recap. This is the last day 6. Well, really day 7. Recap, get ready to start a new day of the word of the week tomorrow, which I'll do another live just to launch that, right? But we're going to do a word of the week, which was consistency. Consistency. So let's talk about that. I want to talk to those who participated, those who didn't participate but like the word of the week and wonder how they can become more consistent in their life. Let's talk about it. Let's figure this thing out. I'm really here to help us all be able to live our best experiences, live our best life now, be able to truly tap into our highest potential. I know there's been a lot going on in society that really is greater than it has become more greater than it is the average distraction, right? And so, how can we pull this thing back? How can we regain control of our lives? How can we regain control of the narrative? That's what I'm here for, to help us, to support us as we tune in and tap into who we are, giving us the ability to be our best and highest selves, as I stated before, and move beyond the distractions. Move beyond the distractions. So, let me give a brief synopsis. I know we're waiting for a few more people to come in. Coming in. Thank you for joining. Thank you. I appreciate it. It means a great deal to me that to have you on here with me, joining me on this journey. It's always easier when you can perform a task with others instead of it being by yourself. I personally have spent the last 2 years in hermit mode, with the exception of my kids and my wife. I've pretty much been a loner, doing my work, going inside, getting an understanding of who I am, where I am, and what I'm here to be. If you notice, I didn't say what I'm here to do, because the reason I didn't is because doing is comes by way of my being. So who am I here to be? And I know many of you have that same question, right? Many have that same question, like what's my purpose? That's like the number one question that's swirling around in the universe right now. People are trying to figure out their purpose. Why do they exist? I don't know if you know this or not, but there's been a significant amount of suicides happening. Significant amount of suicides. And just a personal story, 2 of my children dealt with that and still are dealing with it, because I believe it's a process. Of active healing. It's not something that you just overcome in one day. It's a process of active healing, one day at a time, one moment at a time, one thought at a time. And so I know we're not alone in that space. I've known other children who have decided to leave this world, decided that this world was too overwhelming, that this world was too mean. They didn't feel a sense of purpose in place, not just children, but adults as well. And so I have volunteered to step up, to lend the genius that's within me to be able to support us to being having a better awareness of who we are, into living on purpose, living on purpose. So bear with me because this is a new software I'm working with here, trying to get understanding of how I work it. I'm sitting here touching my screen as if it's a touch screen when in reality it's not. It's not. All these, when you have all this technology around you, some things are touch screens and some things aren't. You start to conflate, right? So yeah, let me know where you guys are tuning in from, wherever. What I'm tuned. Actually, I'm right now. Currently, I'm tapped to YouTube, Facebook, as well as Instagram. So if you haven't tapped into my Instagram yet, please do so. I'm or Twitter. I'm the same on all networks, platforms. Same thing for YouTube. Samuel Crumby Jr. Samuel Crumby Jr. As you see at the bottom. And so it'd be great to tune in with you and to join you on your journey and to be able to submit some light onto your day. I believe light sanitizes all things, right? Light is the thing that helps us to navigate our course and our path. And so, I appreciate you for allowing me to be a light in your experience. And that's the reason why we do these words of the week, word of the weeks. Now, for those of you who do not know, the reason I do the word of the week is to give us something to focus on, to embolden us, and to create, to allow us to develop part of our personal development, right? Allow us to grow and develop and to really have a better understanding, to feel empowered, to feel empowered. I want you to feel the energy in that phrase, to feel empowered. So many times we feel like things are happening outside of our control, when the reality is things are only happening outside of our control because we're giving away our control. I'm going to say it again, I'll say it differently. The reality is things are happening outside of our control because we've given away our power. Since we've given away our power, we can no longer feel empowered. Because that comes from within us, right? We're allowing other people to make decisions for us, to tell you what our value is, to tell you where we can live and what we cannot, to tell you what opportunities are available for us and what are not, to tell us what we're good at and what we aren't, what our geniuses are and what they aren't, how we can contribute and how we can't. When the reality is we alone know exactly what we have to offer to the world. That's something that we get to make that decision. That's an agreement that we made with the master creator before we even came into this physical existence. We get to say, we get to dictate who we are and what we are here to contribute. And so that's why I'm here with you. That's why I'm creating these words of the week to help us one step at a time, one moment at a time, one day at a time, to be able to implement in that power, to regain our power, and so that we can become empowered. And so I did this before with an exercise of gentlemen. And we took a word of the week, and I just saw the monumental changes that happened in them. So I decided to do it again and to do it on a larger scale. Not only for you, but also for me. I'll say that again. Not only for you, but also for me. I am on a life of journey of that is continuously growing. Not here to learn anything, yet to remember everything that I've forgotten. Why do you say that? Because I remember there, no matter how much I attempt to learn, I have always forgotten more than I'll ever learn. Let me say that differently. Regardless of how much knowledge and information I consume on a daily basis, I will forget more than I ever learn. Hence the reason the true task is to remember who I am. Why? Because my spirit, my soul came here already knowing everything. So now it's just important for me to tap back inside, not outside, but inside and reawaken, realign, reconnect with all the information, the knowledge, the insight, the wisdom that I have forgotten. All right. So now, and I'm here to accompany you on that journey, to support you, because we need each other. There's so much division that's been created throughout our universe, especially here in America. So much division that's being created. Why? See, that's the number one question that I ask people on a consistent basis to use. We like to say what, we like to say where, we like to say how, we love to say when, but we never say why. We never ask that question. And I believe the reason we refuse to ask that question is because we really don't want to know the answer. Because if we knew the answer, it's a high probability that it will require something of us. It will require us to be bigger and better than we have been. It will require us to be personally accountable. Okay? Watch out for that word. That may be one of the words of the week coming up. And so here in our accountability, we have chosen the word consistency and implementing it in every part of our lives on a daily basis. So I would love for you to use the chat, or if you like to, be able to, you can tap in, you can bring you in live. You don't have to show your face. And you can share your story of consistency, whether it's something that you've been consistent to prior to this week, or you've been consistent. It's something that you've realized simply because you joined this journey that has allowed you to become more of who you desire to be. Maybe you put something off before, or maybe you were doing something, participating in something, yet it was not on a consistent basis. And you receive more from it because you have chosen to be consistent, right? You understand the power of consistency. So yeah, I would love to hear from you. The chat's available. Again, we're live on 3 platforms: YouTube, Instagram, as well as here on Facebook. Right? And you can tap in and you can chat on all 3 of those, and I can see it on my screen and respond to it. So in the meantime, every day I do a video, provide a quote or writing of or offer something that reminds us different ways to be consistent, or different ways that we can implement the word of the week. Now, if you didn't hear me before, WOW, W-O-W, is an acronym for word of the week. Word of the week is a word that we take, that I give you, and you apply it in your life. And by way of your application, you should see supplication. You should see growth and maturation in your life. And I'm here for the stories. I'm here for the testimonies. I'm here for the gifts, the benefits. Because the reason I'm here for that, and the reason I want you to share those things, is because it may inspire someone else. It can promote progression for someone else. So please don't hesitate to share. I'll share. I'll start out myself. I remember I needed to become, I dropped off my exercise habits. And I know when I do not exercise, I begin to gain weight. And not only do I begin to gain weight, but also have challenges with diabetes. I've been diagnosed as pre diabetic. I also noticed that my sleeping habits are off. I have a low energy level and I'm unable to focus as much as I would like. Now, it didn't help rather, that approximately a little over a month ago that I contracted the virus, coronavirus. And boy, I was not ready for that thing. I did everything in my power to avoid it. Didn't want that introduction at all. Saw people around me contracting it. However, I was keeping my house safe from it. Well, unfortunately, it slipped through the cracks and we contracted it. And I tell you, my experience was an interesting one. And I think the hardest thing for me beyond the fatigue was it hurt me because I was unable to utilize the strongest muscle in my body, my mind. And because of that, it hurt me to think, literally. Brain was foggy. I had to sit myself down and just rest and just believe my way through it. But I knew the good thing about it is I had already became active with getting out, getting my steps every day. Well, not every day. I wasn't consistent. Yet, if I wasn't getting those steps before, I wouldn't have I wouldn't have braved those times as well as I did. It would have had greater consequences. There would have been greater consequences. So again, my weight fluctuates. It's funny. Upon exiting high school, before I entered into the military, the Navy, I was 5'11", 155 pounds. Those who went to school with me, grew up with me, know how slim I was. Yet, upon exiting the military, I was able to get up to 185. That was a goal of mine. But in my later adult life, you would think I was not a slim kid. I ballooned all the way up to 245 pounds. My average weight had been around 215, 210, 220, 215, 220, 225. Not as comfortable there, but it was bearable. Ideally, I like to be around 200, 210. I'm 6'1". And so when that ballooning process was causing some issues with me, and I can even talk about that more if we want to dive deeper beyond the surface and get into the metaphysics of it. And I didn't even know that I was struggling with, uh, or that I had been diagnosed as pre-diabetic. Well, I found out last year, actually. Yet my doctor told me, "Oh, I told you a year before that." I'm like, "No, I would have remembered that. The diabetes is a serious thing on my side of the family. My mother struggled with diabetes for 30 years before she transitioned. There was diabetes in the family before that. So I think my grandfather struggled with diabetes as well. He lived with diabetes. It's not something that I desired to experience myself. Yet, it happened. And so I knew that I needed to be more consistent with my workout. Yet, Let me digress for a moment. The word of the week prior to this week was effort. Well, I knew that doing 1 mile or 2 mile wasn't enough. I needed more effort. It wasn't give me what I needed. So my effort meeting met prompted my consistency. I needed to put in the effort on a consistent basis. And so I went from in 1 week's time from doing 3.5, 4 miles on an average basis to doing to elevating to 5 to 6 miles. Now, granted, this was all done within an hour's time, meaning I elevated from somewhere around 6, 7, 8,000 steps within an hour's time to 10 to 12,000 steps. I remember there was a time when I said, I just wanted to do 10,000 steps a day. Your doctor tells you if you do 10,000 steps a day, you're in pretty good health. 10,000 steps a day, you're in pretty good health. Working in corporate America, you bring your tennis shoes with you. You may put your tennis shoes on at work and walk as much as you can walk. Walk from your car, park far away from, walk from your car to the office and back. Walk around the office spaces as much as you could without being a distraction in order for you to be able to get your steps in. Go to the grocery store, park in the far part of the lot, walk all the way to the store, go up and down each aisle just to get your steps in while you're shopping, right? Well, my effort brought forth me being consistent, elevating from the 8,000 steps to 10 to 12,000 steps on a daily basis. And moving to 13, now that 13 hurts, I'll be honest with you. But it's the consistency. Now, I want to be clear about consistency because I don't want us to think that if we elevate to that, like I've elevated to a new high, right? I don't want us to think that we have to be consistent in that elevation. No, that's not the case. We just need to be consistent in our performance. That elevation is extra. Anything above that elevation, anything involved with that extra is a part of being extraordinary. And I want you to be kind to yourself. I do not want you to be disheartened or to browbeat yourself or to be disappointed with yourself if you're not able to sustain that. Give yourself a break. Be kind to yourself. And reward yourself because you have now elevated yourself and put yourself in a space that you once were unable to reach. So congratulate yourself for that. You're deserving of that. Okay? And so now that's part of the consistency. Other part, now, there were some things that came with that too where I had to change my mind. Because all this stuff is occurring to help us to change the way we see things. It's about getting a different perspective. I believe that once you get a different perception, you get a different perspective, you have a different perception. Meaning, as Mahatma Gandhi said, when you change the way you see things, the things you see begin to change as well. Paraphrasing. When you change the way you see things, the things you see begin to change as well. Funny story. I'm reading this book. By Dr. Wayne Dyer called The Power of Intention, which I'm going to share more about that because I want to know what you're reading as well. Because putting new information in you is a good thing. It's a good thing. New positive information is a good thing. I know most of us are bombarded by all this new stuff that's happening in politics with the wars and with all this stuff, the gas prices, and Wall Street, and inflation, and real estate costs, and interest rates. the, the shootings and the crime and all this stuff that's surrounding us, we've become so infatuated with it that we don't have anything. It takes life from us instead of giving us life, right? So I want you to read. I want you to begin to put life into you on a daily basis so that you can feel emboldened instead of feeling lifeless. Okay. So with this book, Wayne Dyer begins to tell this story about this gentleman who went to see a master teacher. Someone would say it like a coach. And he asked him, he said, you know what, my house, he explained to him that, his relatives were in his house, his in-laws were in his house, and he was tired of it. He's ready for them to go. His house felt so small, it felt so cluttered, and he just couldn't breathe, he couldn't bear it anymore. And asked the teacher, what should he do? And the teacher says, do you have pets? He said, yes, I have goats and I have dogs. He said, okay, great. He said, okay, this is what I want you to do. First thing I want you to do is I want you to get your dogs and bring your dogs in the house. So the guy goes home, gets his dogs, and brings them into the house. Then he goes back a week later. He's like, wait a minute. He said, something's not right here. That didn't work. I did exactly what you said. I brought the dogs into the house. That didn't work. He said, okay. Well, you say you had goats. Now I want you to go get your goats and bring them into the house. So he went and got his goats, did exactly what the teacher instructed, and brought the goats into the house. So now you have the dogs in the house, you have the goats in the house, you have the in-laws in the house, and his family, his wife and children in the house. He comes back, he says, something is not right. Your advice is not good. I did exactly what you said, and I feel worse. It's too crowded. I can't take it. He said, okay. All right, this is what I want you to do now. I want you to go home, and I want you to take the dogs and the goats out the house. So the guy goes back home, trusting the teacher, and takes the dogs and the goats out of the house. He comes back the next week. He said, oh my gosh, you're amazing. It worked. I took the dogs and the goats out the house, and man, there's so much space. There's so much room. I can breathe again. Now, keep in mind, the in-laws are still there. Nothing changed from the original reason that he came. The only thing that changed was how he saw things. So since he changed the way he saw things, that he envisioned things, everything around him changed as well. And I'm saying that to encourage you. There's a lot going on outside of us. That stuff we cannot control. However, we can change how we see it. We can change how we consume it. So I want to encourage you to change how you see it, how you consume it. And remember that you are not powerless. Regain your power so that you can see how powerful you really are in those spaces and experiences. And that's a great thing to do on a consistent basis. Consistency. All right. Well, I thank you guys for being with me. If you have any stories that you want to share, any insight that you want to provide, or if not, I'll be back on tomorrow morning around 12, well, tomorrow noon, with next week's word of the week. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but it's going to be a good one. And I've received great feedback about this week's word. And I would love to hear your feedback as well, because this is a journey that we're on together. You're not alone in this world. You're not alone out there, even though we may not have contact on a daily basis, even though it may seem like you're in this desert meandering, trying to figure things out. You're not. You're not. I'm here for you. We're here for each other. We need each other. All right. And so go, if you have not already, go and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Samuel Crumby Jr., for more information. And I have two incredible shows that we are in process of developing with some amazing hosts, some amazing guests as well. Two incredible shows. I guess I can go ahead and tell you the name. One show that we're bringing out is called Transform Your Life. Who are you? Transform Your Life. Who are you? Uncover, discover, recover self. Okay. The second show is called Make That Make Sense. And we're going to take news and activities of the day that's happening around us. We're going to get a different perspective on it. And we're going to stop allowing others to be able to create a narrative for us. We're going to create our own narrative so that we can seize the day and we can hone our power and go out and live this world as spiritual beings having human experiences instead of human beings trying to figure out who we are spiritually. All right? So fantastic. So you can go check me out there. Let's be doing more shows. We're also doing more activity over with daily posting. I'm getting better with it. I'm being consistent. It's another area that I had to work on, being more consistent. I took a hiatus away from social media for a good minute. Really didn't want to come back. However, I felt the calling, the pulling, the urging, the clarion call to show up and to be present. So we're going to have new content that's coming out on a daily basis. And as I get more of the hang of this, the better the content will be. However, if anyone wants to volunteer to help me with creating content, I would greatly appreciate it. But you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram at Samuel Crumby Jr. Twitter and Instagram at Samuel Crumby Jr. Crumby. And that will allow you and I to connect on a daily basis. Again, I appreciate you for joining me on this journey. I appreciate you for giving me some time, to give me some of your time this evening. I love you. You are absolutely amazing. You are worthy of all the gifts, all the blessings. I pray that your world, that you continue to be blessed indeed, and that your empire, that you will continue to expand mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, energetically. Why? Because you're deserving. All right? Be great. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, noon Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific, with the new word of the week. Be great.